Well, hello and welcome to Alamance County Talks Politics. My name is Keith, and in this video, I had the opportunity to interview Andy Nilsson, who is a candidate for the United States Senate seat of North Carolina, currently held by Senator Thom Tillis. In this video, I had the opportunity to ask Andy two questions, talking about draining the swamp, and the second was, where does he stand on the America First agenda that Donald Trump currently adheres to and espouses? Does he agree with it, or does he disagree with? But let me also encourage you that if you would like to learn a little bit more about Andy, let me encourage you to go to his website. I believe it's andynilsson.com, and learn a little bit more about him yourself. My goal here is to inform the electorate, inform the voters, so that you can make the most informed vote that you can. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the quick interview with Andy Nilsson, and this is part two of the conversation. If you haven't seen part one, let me encourage you to go to that video and to watch that. And let's listen to Andy. Okay, you wrote "Drain the Swamp." Explain to us what you mean about draining the swamp.
Well, that term was really coined by Donald Trump. I mean, who else could have come up with a word that was more appropriate and a better descriptor of the way Washington has worked for so many years? You think about what a swamp's like. You ever been in one? You can't really see through it. It's all murky. It's all mucky and muddy. If you step into it, you get sucked into it. Now, doesn't that sound like K Street? Doesn't that sound like Washington, D.C.? Doesn't that sound like the revolving door of politicians turn into lobbyists, turn back into politicians, turn into candidates? It's the same thing over and over and over again, feeding on itself. It's like the pigs come to the trough to get fed. That is really what the swamp is. Now, are there people who serve of both parties and no party and whatever? Are there people who serve for the right reasons? Certainly. Are they the majority? No, but there's certainly not enough of them. Instead, what it is it's people, who spend a lifetime in that swamp trying to get as much out of it as they can. They don't got to give very much, but they got to get a lot. And then being so protective of it. They spend their lives raising money and building committees and PACs and all the rest of it to protect that little scam that they got running, because they don't want anyone to cut in on it, because it's been such a good thing. And they can't stand that. And so when someone comes along from outside and says, I happen to believe that being in the Senate or being in the House of Representatives, you should represent people. I think you should represent people. Well, that is such an offense to the swamp. You're not representing nobody. The one you're representing, one I'm representing, is me and my interests, and the rest of the interest of everyone else who's stuck in the swamp. That's how they operate, year after year after year. Now, how do you know? What's the qualification? The qualification is, are you doing more for others than for yourself? Are you trying to make money on it? Are you trying to wring all the cash out of it that you can for you and your family, trying to make a business out of it? Who's that senator from New Jersey who just went to prison? For taking all the money from the Turkish government and everything else for arms sales and all the rest of it. I mean, you want to talk about corruption. Total corruption. And he ain't the only one. There's bunches of them like that. So I will not sit here and say that I'm pure. There's only one person that's ever been on this planet that is pure and undefiled. None of us has ever met him in person, but many of us have him in our hearts. But no one else has. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means, but I can recognize when there's a problem. And right now we got a problem where we got a whole bunch of swamp dwellers in Raleigh and in Washington. Donald Trump called that out better than anyone. And I didn't always believe it. Now, this will surprise you. This may just blow your mind, but I was brought up by the political establishment. I was in politics since I was 17 years old, which is 41 years ago. And I was trained by some of the best. I graduated from the Republican National Campaign College in Washington, D.C. Haley Barbour, who was the Republican National Committee chairman, signed my diploma. Lee Atwater, who was George Bush's campaign manager, ran the college. I know how the establishment works because I was trained by them. And for many years, I have no problems admitting this. For many years, I thought that they were right and everybody else was wrong. But then I started to see things. I started to see things like free trade. And they kept saying that free trade is the only way, that protectionism is a bad thing. Well, I couldn't explain why everybody around me was losing their jobs because they were going to China. Free trade. I couldn't justify all the wars that we were getting into. I thought the war that we did in Iraq was, next to Vietnam, the worst single foreign policy failure this country's ever committed. And it was committed by George Bush, based on a lie. So that's what the so-called neocons and the establishment, many of whom trained me, committed. So people say today, well, Andy, how can you, that was your upbringing. How can you be for Trump? Well, how can you wake up to anything? How is it that anyone can wake up to anything? Well, in November of 24, a whole bunch of people woke up and they elected Donald Trump, didn't they? And there was a whole lot of them, like me, that didn't start out as Trump fans, but now are.
Yeah, and you say you're giving your history. Listen, I trusted them. I voted for them. I voted for the ones they told me to vote for. Pretty much they put the candidate up there and said he believes this, and this, and I voted for him. So thank you. And I was going to come to that in just a moment. Yeah. So now, what about your America First conservative position? Says the America First agenda.
America First is Donald Trump's agenda. I've been a conservative my whole life, as we have talked about, so I've got nothing to hide on that. America First is Donald Trump's version of it, and that's the version that I subscribe to, and that's the version that I'll vote for.